For this Halloween DIY, we're gonna need one of these signs. I'm just kidding. But which one of yous were really excited that we were about to do a Halloween project? You can use any of Dollar Tree signs that have like these faux slats going on. We're going to use them to create some faux slats, but first we'll have to paint it on up with some white paints. If you want to use a ruler for this next part, you go right ahead. I had a paint stick sitting next to me and I'm like, this will do the job just fine. So I grabbed a pencil and then just drew lines where those dents were to make fake looking pieces of wood. Then I grabbed me a crusty paintbrush that I had sitting on the side. If you're not familiar with me, one distressing trick that I love to share is those crusty paintbrushes you have laying around, they actually have a little purpose. So if you don't feel like cleaning them out or you forget to clean them out and they're just kind of hanging out and you're like, oh, I'm about to trash it, think again. You can put a little bit of paint on these and use them to create really cool looking distressed looks. I've been loving Dollar Tree's baskets lately, and I had to come up with another idea for these suckers because I have so many in my stash. So grab a basket. It really doesn't matter which one. I just thought this one looked great for this project. You're gonna need to use some twine. You could use some zip ties, whatever attachment you would actually really like to use for this, it's up to you. I decided to flip the sign upside down and then feed the twine through the hole and then back through the hole. So this way I could tie a knot in the back. But you could absolutely do this basket attachment so many different ways. You could put staples in it. And if you struggle to get the twine back through once you have it looped around a piece of the basket, grab a little bit of painter's tape and tie it really tightly around the twine and it will allow you to feed it right back through the hole. I tied a double knot once I got it through the hole, and then I took the extra pieces and split it right and left and applied a little bit of hot glue and smooshed it with a tumbling block. So this way I know that this wasn't going to come back apart. You can absolutely add some Gorilla Glue or some of your E6000, some tacky glue, just to make sure that this is going to be a little bit sturdier if you want. And no, I didn't cover the back of the sign. If you want to cover the back of the sign, you go right ahead. I felt like nobody was going to know anyway, except for me, well, and you, but you don't count. I'm kidding, people. I'm kidding. Don't cancel me yet. I'm just getting started. We're going to need to grab one of these welcome signs. Well, any of these signs that Dollar Tree has, really, that has a little hanging mechanism will work just fine. I did not like that gaudy flower at the bottom, so I just removed it. And then I grabbed some paint because I did not like the paint color of this either. It was a little tacky for me. So I'm just going to use some of my DIY paint here. Feel free to use whatever paint you know is going to work well with metal. Grab you a little sponge or a pouncer in my case, or a paintbrush, whatever works best for you, and tappity tap 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 that paint all over the place until you're happy with the coverage. This took 3 coats. Apply whatever hanging mechanism you would like. I'm gonna take one of these little command strips and just put right on the center in the top of our little decor piece and then hang our little welcome sign. I grabbed some florals and shoved them in the basket. Obviously, put whatever color florals work best for you for this piece. For the staging purposes, I wanted to show you that this looks really cute even if you're sitting it down somewhere or if you're hanging it on the wall. If you do decide to hang it on the wall and you notice that your basket is hanging down a little too far, grab your stapler and pop a stapler or two in there just to keep the basket upright a little bit more. I would put some extra stability in the back if you plan on putting anything heavy in this basket. For this decorative storage space idea, you're gonna need to grab 2 of the smaller mason jars from Dollar Tree and one of these baskets. I'm really into the Dollar Tree baskets right now. Then do yourself a favor and take a minute to put both of these mason jars inside your baskets. You're gonna notice that it's a little snug. The reason why I tell you to take a minute doing that is so you can figure out the size that you want to press this basket out to fit in your mason jars. Lucky for us, these baskets are pretty manipulatable. So I decided to continue to put them in and then move the basket around and create a shape that I thought would look best for this decor piece. I also decided to kind of push the basket down a little bit more, so this way the jars stood out over top of the basket. I took the center of the metal pieces out and just kept the little rings. Now, you don't have to do this part if you want to just leave your mason jars as they are. You go right ahead, but I wanted to add a little bit of color, so I took some of this ink chalk paint by Waverly and gave these a nice coat. I ended up putting 3 coats on here for good coverage, and if you want to plop a sealer on here, go ahead and put a little layer of Mod Podge over it. Absolutely won't hurt. I really just wanted to add the black on here for a little bit of color to match our basket, but you don't have to put anything on your mason jars at all. You can really do a lot with this little idea. I decided that I was going to put them in the bathroom with a little bit of greenery because it matched some of the accents that were already in the bathroom to use to hold some toothbrushes and some cotton balls. For this large storage basket wall decor piece, you're going to need 3 of these joints from Dollar Tree. They also have these in the white, so if you don't want to use them in the black, go ahead and grab them in the white or spray paint them whatever color matches the idea for your decor. I removed all the tags and now it's time to bring us in a nice large piece of wood. This is a 2x4. You can really take this idea and remix it to whatever size works for you. I'm going to stain it with some antique Waverly wax. A little tip to help you save using too much product is to spray your wood down with a little bit of water. Now this tip don't work with all stains, but I love using it with the antique Waverly wax and paints. It just helps make your products last a little bit longer. And anywhere I can pinch some pennies with this craft habit of mine, I'm all about it. What I really love about this idea is you can create this DIY in several different ways. You can take the baskets and line them up just like this. They would probably look better if the piece of wood was a little bit thicker. Or you can do what I'm going to do and put them this way on your piece of wood. Again, you can have a thicker piece of wood. You can have a longer piece of wood. I just made sure that this piece of wood was cut just big enough for these 3 baskets. Before we go attaching the baskets, you're going to want to manipulate them so they pop out just like this in the top section underneath the rim. This is so they're going to lay flat like this up against the piece of wood. And my friends, this is super easy. Okay, the baskets, they're really manipulatable and you can bend them to your little heart's desire. Well, within reason, of course. But now we're gonna need to bring on in the stapler. I'm calling upon the stapler to help me attach these suckers. By all means, use whatever you feel is necessary for this. And truth be told, there are several ways that you could attach these and probably get a little bit better of a hold. I do wish I would have put the baskets up a little bit higher on this piece of wood. Shoulda, woulda, coulda at this point. We are just rolling on. You learn from my mistakes and do better at home. I made sure to flatten out the back section on each one of these baskets as I was attaching them. And of course, just as I'm pretty much done getting this all together, that's when the struggles begin. Just had to be one, right? One of you just had to show off and not go in there right. Come here. Oh, another wise guy, huh? Like, it's the last basket. It's the last basket, and now we're gonna have problems. I cannot count the amount of times that I start a project, everything will be going great, and then it doesn't. but there's always that one. You know what I'm saying? I'm using these sawtooth hammer and hangers for our hangers on the back of our project. They are linked down in my Amazon affiliate, link down in the description box for anyone interested. And people, if I'm being 100% honest with you, you want to make sure that you're not putting too much weight in these baskets. For an example, let's say you want to use it for fruit or vegetables, maybe 3 apples or onions, at most 4, and that really depends on how well you have them attached to whatever you're putting them on. This idea would also be amazing to store tons of light craft things in, but I'd be careful with anything too heavy. For this hanging wall decor set, I'm going to be using 2 of these, but you can use whatever size and whatever kind of frames you would like. You're going to need some tumbling blocks and some paint sticks. And while you're at it, you might as well bring on in the miter shears, because we're going to need to cut these paint sticks down, or use whatever cutting technique you would like. I'm going to be using these, and I'm going to cut 2 pieces the exact same size that just cover the front of these frames. So in total, you'll need 4 paint stick bits. We are not going to be needing the glass in these frames, so go ahead and remove them and shove them in your craft stash somewhere for another project for another day. If you want to leave these little metal bits on the back of your frames, you go right ahead. They always end up being a pain for me no matter what if I leave them in, so I just grab some needle nose pliers and just remove the suckers so I don't have to worry about them later or possibly want to remove them later. To attach the tumbling blocks and our paint sticks, I'm going to be using some tacky glue. Now all I'm really doing is creating a teeny tiny little basket right on the outside of these frames. And people, feel free to use your hot glue to make sure that everything is sticking immediately. I knew that I was going to be running out and this was going to have several hours to dry before I carried on to the next part. To recreate the basket, you're just going to need 4 tumbling blocks and 2 of the paint sticks. And that's for this size little frame piece. Obviously, how many you're going to need is going to vary depending on the size, but I put the 2 paint sticks on the front kind of like a palette and left a little gap on there. I'm using my little water bottle to give these a couple little squirts, so this way it's nice and wet and my antique Waverly wax will go over these pieces quick and easy. If you don't want to use antique Waverly wax, paint these whatever color works for you, and if you want to paint the pieces individually, you go right ahead. This is just how I was rolling with the project. For this next part, you're gonna need to bring on in the wire cutters. Well, you don't have to, but I'm going to, because we're gonna need to use them to snip the entire top and the entire bottom off of this little wire basket. Also, Dollar Tree does have the trash cans that are the same material, the same style. So if you want to get more bang for your buck to have more faux chicken wire laying around, grab those trash cans when you see them. It's always a great little hack to make for smaller projects. Now, if you have regular chicken wire laying around, you want to use that, power to you. I didn't have any. After about 20 minutes of cutting this wire basket up, I had me nice little sections that fit right over our frame. Now it was time for us to bring on in the stapler. And honestly, you can use whatever means you want to fit and attach these on here. I'm going to show you in a second that you can actually cut them down to fit in the hole, or you can cut them to hang over the hole and then just staple in the back. You could absolutely use some glue, whatever works best for you. The stapler is always my friend. And as you can see, if you cut this down right, it will fit inside the back of these size frames. On their own, I think they look really cute just sitting them around. You could easily switch out the little greenery for floral pieces with the seasons. These are also the perfect size to put little clothespin and wallet-sized pictures on, or chalkboards, and write little messages and hanging them on the walls around your home. For this large interchangeable home sign, we're gonna need several of these 12-inch popsicle sticks. And we're gonna need to nip the tip right off the top of these suckers so they look like this. Next, you're going to want to take a minute and arrange the popsicle sticks out to spell H, M, and E. And then you're going to want to take 1 or 2 of the popsicle sticks and cut the interjunction pieces. I guess that's what you would call them, interjoining pieces that go in between the letters to actually spell them out. And in case you're wondering what the measurements are, I measured with love. I eyeballed it and rolled on. I grabbed some paint colors, 3 different colors to be exact, and did each letter a different color. I'm going to use some quick and thick Type-On for a long hold and some hot glue for a quick hold. But first up, I wanted to take a minute and just kind of mess around with the pieces, making sure they were in the exact spots I wanted them before I started gluing everything down. Because, you know, once you got them suckers on there, you are not going to be able to pull them back off and recenter anything unless you completely screw the whole piece up. And people, you can absolutely pop some staples in here. Use whatever you would like to join all your little bits and pieces together. I also encourage you to mess around with the pieces and create whatever shape of your M or your E or your H that you would like to see in your home with your decor. As I was creating this, even though you'll see that in my version, I did not add any, I wanted to give you the inspiration for at home. Where each one of the little connecting points are, these would look super cute if you had some buttons, maybe some half beads, and put on there. You could paint them whatever color you think makes sense for the entire piece to kind of match together. Wrap some fairy lights around each individual letter. There is a lot of ways you could get really creative because this is such a large piece. And when you see the thing that we're going to be using for the O, you'll understand exactly why. Look at this basket from Dollar Tree. I love these baskets. I'm really into these baskets right now from Dollar Tree. I know, a basket, Brandy, really? Hear me out. Listen. If you choose to, feel free to use as much floral wire and floral foam and glue everything down as you want to. You're going to see here in my example that I didn't glue or use floral wire in anything, and you can change this out as often as you want. Even if you use floral wire, you could still change the pieces out. Now, instead of completely filling our O up with the greenery, I'm actually just taking it and going around the outside. This is so I can use the same greenery all year long if I want to, and just change out the little pieces that we are putting in the center, whether it's for a change of decor in the home or the season. For this decoupage pedestal stand, we're going to need to start off by grabbing us a Dollar Tree basket and one of these industrial candle holders. For the top of the tray, we're going to need a round or an oval piece. I didn't have any at my local Dollar Tree. This was in my stash, so I'm just going to roll with this. I want to do the iron-on method to the top of this piece, so I'm taking a lot of Mod Podge and applying it to all the sections of this round piece that I want it to attach to. If you want a nice crisp line around your edges where you separate the piece you're decoupaging, make sure to take your time and apply nice thick layers all around the edges. When your piece looks like this, set it off to the sides and let it dry for a couple hours naturally. For our decoupage portion, we're going to be using this beautiful decoupage tissue paper. Over on my Facebook page, I do have a TDS community group where we just share all things related to crafts and decoupage and TDS. I put out a little poll over there and asked them what section of this paper that they like the best, and the section we're going to decoupage on the top of this won. And for anyone wondering what is TDS, it stands for the DIY Struggle. It is my brand, and over on my website, thediystruggle.com, I have a decoupage paper line with over 40 designs for you to choose from, a transfer line, small rice paper prints, and digital downloads. A question I get asked a lot is if you can iron on tissue paper, and that is why I wanted to do this particular project, is to show you that you absolutely can. I want to save as much of this paper as possible, so I decided to just trace around the part that I wanted, and I just cut that out. Now it's time for us to bring on in our iron. This little sucker usually sits right next to me at the craft table. It is not the exact iron that you have to use for projects like this, so please don't feel like this is the only iron. You can use whatever iron you would like. I do turn mine all the way up before I begin. You're going to want to make sure to grab you some parchment paper. This is going to help you apply your piece. It's going to protect your paper from getting any possible burn marks from the iron. It's also going to help reduce any ability for your iron to stick to your paper or to the project if there's Mod Podge around it. The parchment paper does a multitude of things. I also get asked very often, can you use wax paper? Wax paper is not heat resistant. Wax paper is mostly used to stop as like a non-stick surface. Parchment paper is heat resistant, so it does make a little bit of a difference. Now, I'm not saying I've never used wax paper in a pinch, but you know, parchment paper is what you're supposed to use. And one rule of thumb that I kind of try to follow whenever I'm doing this method is to pick a side and go from one side to the next. This will help prevent any bubbling up in the center. When you're all done, check around the edges to make sure everything's attached, and then get a little piece of sandpaper and go around sanding. I like to just go straight down with my sandpaper just in case anything isn't attached around the edge. We don't have any bunching and can fix that. Once your piece is completely dry, if you want to put some sealer over it, you go right ahead. Make sure you do little thin layers instead of going in heavy. It's going to help reduce wrinkles as it dries. Now it's time to assemble our piece. You can leave your basket in the shape that it is, but I wanted mine a little bubbly, and this stuff is easy to manipulate. So I just made mine look like this, and then I flipped it over on the bottom and grabbed the top of our tray and put it into place. I flipped it upside down and then grabbed this little wood piece. You could use whatever wood piece you want as long as it fits on top of our little industrial candle holder here. I'm using tacky glue and hot glue to be able to attach this to the metal basket and have something solid for our metal candle holder to attach to. You can skip this next part if you want to, but I wanted to add some fairy lights, at least for the staging purposes, and an extra idea because it looks so amazing. You can remove this, obviously, if you just tape it in here. Feel free to glue yours down. Take the idea and remix it into whatever works for your home decor. I absolutely just think this idea is so amazing. Look how awesome this looks. We're going to start off this project needing one of Dollar Tree's wire baskets, and in a second you'll see why I chose that one. Also, one of Dollar Tree's crates, and a bunch of tumbling tower blocks. We are firstly going to use the tumbling blocks to create a base that fits underneath of our wire basket. You can make this as large or as small as you want, just make sure it mostly fits. And then we're going to take some wood glue and hot glue to attach everything completely together. As you can see here, my base is slightly smaller than the bottom of the basket, and I'm completely content with that. But if you want to add more blocks, just throw some extra blocks on there. It's really not a big deal. It's just an aesthetic look, and it's going to make sure that everything stays together, so you do need a wood base. Now it's time to build a tower, and I'm using this basket because the wire gaps are larger than the other style baskets that Dollar Tree has. It's perfect for me to be able to use wood glue and hot glue and alternate putting tumbling blocks in each piece in the center, so this way it holds the wire basket down into place just like this. Once you have those 4 blocks into place, you're pretty much good to go, and you can either build straight up like I am, or you could build it off to the side and then just press it down. You might have a little bit more of an even build, as you can see in the end result. Mine's a little wonky, but it's not too noticeable for me, so I was fine with it. But if you want something that makes the blocks match up a little bit better, just do that off to the side and then attach to the 4 at the bottom you put on here. For a base at the top, I just glued 3 tumbling blocks together and then applied more of that wood glue and hot glue and attached our crate. It was at this moment that I realized the neutrals didn't really match. I grabbed some of my Antique Waverly wax and a baby wipe to smear some on here, so this way everything kind of blended together and looked really nice. And this was a paint, so if you want to recreate this and you're going to paint it, do it before you put everything together. To tie the color of the wire basket in with the top of the crate, I decided just to grab a little rub-on transfer and put down in the corner. You can absolutely use whatever rub-on transfers you would like, but for those wondering where these in particular came from, they are part of my own creative brand called TDS, and they can be found on my website. I'll have a link down in the comments pinned, as well as a link to my website in the description box. Just click the more button right under this video for anyone that wants to check them out. This piece could be used for so many different things, but for the video and staging purposes, I put some greenery in here with a little bit of florals and a candle accent. Next time you're in Dollar Tree, grab one of their wood palettes, or all the palettes really. I love to DIY with these things. We're gonna need not 1, but 2 for this project. And you can paint them one up if you want, but I'm gonna leave my neutral, and we're gonna also need to make sure we have 2 of Dollar Tree's wire baskets in this style. And I'm not calling this a craft or DIY necessarily, so to say specifically, but it kind of is. Or so it's kind of just a way for you to style the palettes with the basket. They literally fit in here absolutely perfectly. You could glue these or you could zip tie them down, completely up to you. You could even put one on the bottom and attach them together this way. That way you have a little bit more stability. And people, as simple as this idea is, there's really so much that you could do with it. This would look amazing in a bathroom, just putting some decorative towels in there, or you could even take some dishwasher safe Mod Podge and paint over the palettes, so you can put your soaps on top of here, whether it's in the kitchen or in the bathroom, so it will protect your wood and give you a nice little oomph to your space. For this hanging wall decor piece, you're gonna need one of these from Dollar Tree and one of these from Dollar Tree. I mean, really use whatever word you want. I just happen to have this one in my stash, and honestly, look at it. It fits kind of perfect right in the center of this. And some nautical rope. Grab yourself some nautical rope, or twine if you want. I'm using nautical rope. I am a glutton for punishment with this rope. It's kind of a long story. I'll link that video down in the description box. Anyhow, I used the rope for the hanger and kept the rope completely intact and tied it right on the edge of the corners on the top of our wall decor piece. And it worked out pretty great. There's a bunch of ways that you could attach this galvanized metal sign, but I just figured I'm going to utilize the holes that are actually in here. Sometimes hot glue isn't the best thing for the job. I had this bendable wire in my stash, and I use it for like little floral pieces or projects like this. I just cut a teeny piece and I made it into the shape of a U, fed it through the little hole that was already there, and then just twisted it like 2 times on the back of the piece. I made sure to like take a second and place it in the right spot, so this way it wasn't going to be moving around once I did the little twisty in the back, and then took my wire cutters and clipped off the excess that was on here. And then I did the same thing for the other hole. People, I am florally challenged, so take this idea and remix it into whatever beautiful floral idea you can come up with. Because for me, this was like what I had. You know what I'm saying? Plus, I really like this vine stuff from Dollar Tree because it stays wherever you put it. It was a little bit of a pain feeding it through the wires because pieces were coming off, but I just reattached them. At the end of the day, I think this turned out so beautiful. Let me know what you think. This beautiful tabletop decor piece is going to be brought to you by this Dollar Tree basket. I love these baskets. I don't always see them at my stores, but I grabbed a bunch and now we got some in the stash. I picked this wood round piece up from Walmart for a whole $5. If you're not familiar with me, I love live edge wood. So whenever I can grab me some for a little bit of nothing, I make it happen. And look how simple this is, right? That's it. That's really it. We're going to take us a Dollar Tree vase. Okay. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Some greenery. You could obviously put some florals in here, switch this up year round at Christmas time, put some Christmas floral fall, put some leaves, all the things. Drop you a beautiful candle right in the center of this and plop it anywhere in your home. Simple, easy, high-end, and stunning. This easy decorative tray can really go anywhere in your home. And these, don't they look like a basket? It says tray, but they look like a basket to me. Anyhow, it's a basket to me. Moving on. We're going to need some burlap, and that's the only thing we're going to need extra for this. And just in case you are looking for burlap, Walmart has a bunch of options for you to choose from and designs, along with a lot of colors at the $4.98 price point. Look at all these colors, people. We can DIY for all the seasons. Anyhow, if you want to splurge for a higher price point, you can get the larger burlap that is going to cover our tray. It's basket all in one swoop. However, I wanted to stay at the $4.98 price point and got this and figured no one's gonna know other than me, well, you, because I'm telling you, but other than me, that it's 2 pieces of burlap. We're gonna cut them down to be about the same size and then just put some beautiful little pieces in here. This would also look really awesome on a coffee table for your remotes, some coasters, maybe on the back of a toilet, put some toilet paper rolls, magazines, if anybody reads magazines anymore. I just absolutely love how simple and elegant this looks. For this tabletop storage basket set, we're going to need a couple components, starting with one of these baskets from Dollar Tree. One of these wood pieces from Dollar Tree, and it could really be any piece of wood, just make sure it's thick and sturdy. We're also going to need a top, and I'm choosing to use this little live edge piece from Dollar Tree, mostly because I know these cup holders, they're going to be able to go through and hold on to be able to hold a little bit of weight on them. I'm using a square dowel. I either grabbed this from Home Depot or from Hobby Lobby, maybe even Walmart, because they've been selling stuff like this recently. But you're gonna need some sort of dowel for the middle of this piece. Choose wisely, my friends, and make sure it can hold a little bit of weight, okay? First order of business is really prepping everything and removing these staples. If you've never done, it's a pain. Oh, it is such a pain. Next up, we are going to pop this bad boy out and give it a nice roundish type shape so we have some more room inside the basket. These are really easy to manipulate, so you can really shape these however you want. And since I'm going to be using this piece to store some K-cups and some coffee cups, I want to have a little bit more room in here for more K-cups. When you're happy with the size and the shape you've created, now it's time to really measure everything to size before we start busting out the tools. And first things first, we need to center this as much as we can. So I put the bowl on here, or the basket, I put the basket on here, and then took our little dowel and the top and just started kind of eyeing everything. If you need to bust out the ruler and, you know, the tape measure, I'm not going to judge you, okay? Maybe a little bit. I might, just a little bit. Next up, it is time to bring on in the miter shears. That's right, at this very moment, you're witnessing me thinking I can absolutely chop through this dowel with these miter shears. Instead, I end up putting a hole in the wall. That's right, a hole in the wall.
Sweet baby raccoons. Oh.
Oh, I put a hole in the wall. Oh, no. Look at that. Uh-oh. That's not good. I knocked the corner of that dowel. It went right in there. It's not funny. It's not funny. But, you know, what are you going to do? Listen, I do not recommend using these for a piece this thick. Bust out your miter saw or whatever. Like, get your little something out. It's too much. And I don't have a lot of hand grip strength as it is. So, I mean, you can see me struggling here. Like, if you got a miter box, that would definitely work way better. Me and my bright ideas. Learn from the struggles, people. When you get it all cut up, you are going to need to bring on in your drill with a drill bit. There are a couple of different ways you could go about this. I decided to use a dowel joint. You can do this a couple different ways as well. They even have little pre-made dowel joints. I like taking a thin dowel and then just chopping it down as small or as large as I need. We're only going to need a little piece like this. And then I marked the center, what I felt was the center of our storage piece. Next, I'm taking our drill bit and drilling just halfway through this. Another way you could attach all these pieces to make sure it's really secure instead of just using hot glue is to drill completely through, put a screw up through the bottom so it attaches all of the pieces. If you happen to start creating a dowel joint with any DIY or craft and you notice that the dowel that you're inserting is slightly smaller than the hole you're created, don't stress that out. Sometimes the drill bits you have access to are a little bit bigger than the dowels that you have. You can take some wood glue, smoosh it on in those holes that you created, and then take your little dowel bit, put a little bit of that wood glue on the edge too, and then gather up some of those little crusty wood bits right in with the wood glue and smush it on in those holes. This is going to fill up the gap spaces, and as it dries, it's going to create a really good hold. This next part, you can take it or leave it. I'm going to drill a hole completely through the top of this. You'll see why I say that in just a second. I'm also going to use some tacky glue to attach our metal pieces to our wood, because I know tacky glue is a really good medium to bond those two materials. You guys use whatever makes you fuzzy inside. I know this works, so that's what I'm choosing to use. If you have ever tried to attach cup holders without starting a hole, it's a pain. A little tip is to take this tool right here and press it into the wood where you plan on applying these. I've even done this underneath kitchen cabinets. You press gently with your thumb, it starts to go in, and then just wiggle it around, and it's a great starter hole without having to pre-drill any holes. And it only takes a couple seconds. Then before you know it, you're able to place the little cup holder right in its spot, and it is completely in the hole. You can also add some extra tacky glue in here just to ensure that you got a nice bond, but you're good to go without putting any more strain on your hands. Now that everything is drilled and screwed in and all the stuff, we are ready to put it together. I'm using hot glue for an immediate hold since we have put all the good glues in all the right spots. This hot glue is going to help everything set. And here is why I drilled the hole in the top of the little piece. And just when I think again that my struggles are over, I'm still dropping stuff. I wanted to put the knob on here as a little decorative accent. You can absolutely take that or leave it for whatever is going to work for your home and your decor. But I love how this piece turned out. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this. If you're interested in more Dollar Tree inspiration, check out this video right here. As always, people, thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today, and until next time.